It's a very, very small group of people, many of them clueless.
Hi, everybody. It's Gene Simmons, and you're not. This is KISS My Kollectibles podcast, but you know that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of KISS My Kollectibles. I am one of your co-hosts, Jason Herndon, and with me, as always, very early in the morning in Detroit, Joe
That's
Lawley.
right. What's happening?
Are you tired?
Nope, just angry. Nah, it's all good. Happy to be here. How's it going?
It's good, man. It's good to see you.
Good. Yeah, you too.
Yeah. So let's bring in our other pal down in Australia, Nicholas Buckland.
Hello.
In the
Is it
mountains.
me you're looking for? No.
That's right.
No.
Dear God, no.
If it is, we're all in trouble.
We are way in trouble. That's been a long, long time since we've recorded one. Just
It has
with the
been.
three of us
Yeah.
with a guest. Yeah. Nicholas has
Yeah.
been MIA for a little while. Had a lot going on. So, welcome back.
Yeah.
Busy times. Been good to see
rehab
you
was great. So yeah.
Rehab was great. Did you graduate, or did?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Excuse me. Joining us on the episode today is a gentleman who has done a lot of work in design for lots and lots and lots of KISS projects, which we will talk about. And we'll just bring him on in. We've got Mr. Tom Jermann with us. How are you, Tom?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Nice.
Good. So, we brought Tom on today because this episode we're going to discuss the 45th anniversary edition of Destroyer, specifically the deluxe box set. We'll discuss everything that's coming, but we definitely want to dig into this whole set and maybe how it was put together and who participated. And of course, our very own Nicholas was one of the participants in helping with this project. So, we just want to talk about all of those kinds of things. Plus some other projects that just were sprung upon us all. We'll get to that shortly, but that's what Tom is here for. So, what should we do, Nicholas? Should we go right into some new confessions?
Yeah, let's go into new confessions because it was a big one today. So play the intro for me. Have you got?
I could if I had it. Where is it?
shake off a little bit of the rust, huh?
It's probably in there somewhere.
New confession. New.
Hey, I found it.
That was worth it.
Like, hang on. And play. Well, I guess the thing that was probably most interesting to talk about first, I'll do the interesting one first before the uninteresting ones, is this, which is hello. It's not wide enough. There we go. Got a little space in there, but it's the older collection. So I'll leave that on screen while everyone can have a little look at what we're talking about, because that just dropped today. Your normal T-shirts and coffee mugs. That lithograph is based on the clear poster that came out at the time, the promo poster, and then we have the two most important things there are the two picture discs, which I believe the one that looks like the Japanese one sold out in record time.
About 40 minutes.
About 40 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, about 40 minutes.
Amazing.
And so they made 500 of those, and that was it. Once I posted it in Kiss My Wax and Kiss My Collectibles, and the comments just blew up. People were clamoring and I actually was buying another copy for a friend of mine and had it in my cart and went to check out, and it said it was sold out. That's how I knew it was about 40 minutes. It's unbelievable.
So did you try and buy it? How many were you trying to buy?
I bought when I
498.
That's right. That's right.
I miss that guy. He's the best.
No, I bought one of each, and then I bought the lithograph, and I was talking to my very good friend Pat Lucero, and he wasn't at a place where he could buy it, so I was going to buy him one of each, and when I went to check out, it was gone.
Wow, okay, that's really quick.
So there were 500. There's two different picture discs. So the Japanese version,
right?
There's 500 of them at $150 a piece, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, sold out in under 40 minutes, which is
we had
nuts.
we had a similar phenomenon when they did the double platinums, and you had the limited edition of 500 that each disc had a face on it. And those went pretty quickly, but I think it took about 24 hours for that to sell completely out. The Elder, gone.
Now, what I'm just looking at the actual the one that sold out, and it said, so is this designed the same way? Is this just a slip sheet and it's the regular record inside, or is this actually a specially printed cover? I don't even know how this works.
Do you know, Tom?
If I recall, and it's, it's 4 or 5 months ago when I put these things together. There's also, if I recall correctly, a lenticular
I can see that there.
Insert. But I would have to, if I can open this file quickly, actually.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
To remind myself.
Because it almost
looks like there's an obi. Right, but I don't know if there's an actual obi, or is that printed? Is that printed on the on the jacket itself? It's
what's called an onsert. It's basically like a almost 12 by 12.
So it's just like so it would be just like the Japanese release, where it's a false cover.
Yeah, and it's on the back. It has the. It's all Japanese, the track listing.
Yeah.
So, I received a scan of the original, which was in okay condition, but okay condition doesn't really fly with me.
Right.
So I went into my archive, and luckily I had high-res scans of those 4 photos, and basically meticulously sort of retouched them and replaced them with from the scan, and on the old part, I had to do some retouching, cleaning up, so it'll print nicely, or as nice as it could, I guess.
So what's the lenticular litho? What is that? I realize I don't actually have a file of that, so I'm not even quite sure. It might be the cover itself, or a band photo or something. So because I think that was just done with a different manufacturer, and they may have just kind of put it together. So I'm not sure.
Are you on KISS Online, Nicholas? Because to me, it read like it read like it was the actual picture disc was 3D lenticular. Hold on.
Oh, okay. As well as a specially designed 3D lenticular litho.
Oh, I see.
That means
it could be that they used the photo that I chose for the one of the sides of the LP itself, just obviously in a square format. So yeah.
Well, it looks very cool, and of course, picture discs are if you're a fidelity kind of guy, picture discs are a novelty item because, you just don't have great audio with picture discs. So you've got, especially in our group, Kiss My Wax, where you've got all of the diehard vinyl collectors. Of course, they all want it, but you've also got people that are clamoring, I wanted just, colored vinyl too, because we want something where the audio is high fidelity, just like the
Do you actually
2014s.
ever play at those things, or do you just leave them sealed?
For fun every now and then, just because it's cool to watch them spin on the turntable.
Yeah.
But it's for a fidelity thing, you don't. Wouldn't you say, Joe? I mean, picture discs are just.
Yeah, I mean that certainly is a prevailing thought because of the way that they're manufactured. That they're not as good as 180 gram vinyl.
Yeah,
it's
because
pressed
it's very,
on top, isn't it? It's like
that's right.
Yeah,
like a sticker almost. Really,
there's a little thin layer that they press the music into. It's not all the way into the vinyl, and and you've got a photo in between.
Deep.
So
yeah,
that's right. But that being said, they are beautiful, and it was very, very nice to see that the elder was recognized in some way, because everyone just kind of thought it's just going to be looked over like it always has in the past. But here they are. They actually kind of went out and did something for there were several other things on that photo that Nicholas showed up that the lithograph is really cool. I bought one of those. I love that clear promo poster. And so Tom, I saw a bunch of people asking that lithographed in the middle. It's based on the clear promo poster, but is this on white or is it clear as well? Do you recall?
I actually don't have an answer for you because I'm not involved in any of the merch stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think that all that stuff is done by Epic Rights or Bravado or
Gotcha.
Charge now.
Gotcha.
They kind of do their thing. I get hired by Universal to do the actual releases. And in most cases, that's sort of two different
understood
avenues that are in a parallel kind of way functioning. But so I have nothing to do with the T-shirts or coffee mugs.
Yeah. Well, I didn't figure that sort of.
I'm too old for this shit.
But I'm glad you explained that, because I was under the impression that you had a little bit more to do with maybe some of the merchandising as far as that special kind of stuff, as far as promotional material and redawning some of that vintage promotional material that they've been doing. So that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I get asked to submit some photos or help research stuff, but it really depends on the release. Sometimes I'm more involved in actual marketing tools and stuff like that. But when it comes, I think, to these one-off kind of things, that they do their thing, and
got it.
That's it.
Okay. Nicholas, what else you got, buddy?
Coming up next, very, very quickly, I saw was blah, 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 blah. There was these things from Funko, which is, I don't know if you've seen these before. The let's stick with the Destroyer theme today. They're not really, what I could see, they're not really just the Destroyer Funkos at all. It's just been stuck with an album cover and silver background, but they're actually wearing their live outfits and that, which is very odd.
Oh, they sure are, aren't they?
Yeah, which is weird, which should have been. So they're actually just the old figures. So I assume this is not the only band that does this. There must be a whole range of these for other bands.
Right.
But anyway, the KISS one's coming out. If ever you've wanted a jigsaw puzzle but thought it wasn't round enough, you can get the picture disc. We've kind of, after 20,000 Destroyer puzzles, you now get a round one. So it's picture disc size, they say.
What's the Raising Arizona bit? The guy goes into the party store and he's like, "Do you have any balloons that come in funny shapes, and the guy says, "If you think round is funny." So,
it's a lot of subjective, isn't it?
so there you go, a funny round jigsaw puzzle.
Oh, my God.
The next two, you probably remember, or probably don't remember, this thing that came out by BST AXN, the little demon figure Destroyer. Again, Destroyer, here we are. And then they brought out Ace one earlier this year. Finally, they've announced, you guys are just, it's what everyone in the KISS world's been waiting for, is these two figures. Yes. I don't know there's a weird join on Peter there. I think that's where he twists or something. But yes, so they've announced those two for anyone who wants to collect. Yeah.
And
He's got
Paul
a
with
weird join
the
on
wrong
his
guitar.
chest where he turns. Paul's got that weird kind of mid-riff kind of join as well.
Listen to Tom pointing out that the Iceman hadn't come out during the Destroyer period, so it paused the wrong guitar.
It's just a little detail. You
That's
know.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, the little details they don't add that we love so much. There were these sneakers have just come out and featuring your favorite member, the Stark.
The Stark.
Which is some top level, top quality there. But yeah, you can get these in Europe. I haven't got anything else. Let's move on to
The Stark.
the Stark. I just saw that. I just thought I'd include that one. It was ridiculous. That's official merchandise.
The stork child.
The Stork.
The ostrich. Like, what an amazing band.
Exactly.
So funny. We do have a little fun with some of this stuff, Tom, but you know.
that's all I've got for today. Tom's going, I definitely had nothing to do with that one.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate.
Yeah, other people do that.
That's right, other people.
Exactly. So yeah, have we got anything to show? And I think we know what we've got to show because it was on the start of the episode that you clicked to watch on YouTube, so you already know.
That's right.
Yeah.
So basically, this is going to be an unboxing, and it's going to be a detailed unboxing of the 45th anniversary Destroyer box set that Tom and Nicholas and other people worked on. And I don't know, we'll just go piece by piece.
Well, let's take a step back. Let's talk, as we're always wanting to do here. Tom, do you want to kind of talk about the genesis of this project, how it comes to you?
Phil Collins.
Yeah. and just start talking about the beginning of the project, and then kind of how it the genesis of it and how it unfolds over time, what's added, those kinds of things, and then maybe we can kind of show what's inside and go from there.
I think that's a great plan.
Okay. It's with this past year, it seems like it's 10 years. So sometimes I'm like, I can't even remember exactly which month was, we started or what happened, and the lockdown and all that stuff. If I remember correctly, it was at the beginning of last year when we were supposed to start working on this. And we started a little bit, Ken Sharp and I, and then we went into lockdown, right? In mid-March or something like that. Then I think it wasn't until August or so when the first emails started coming in again, like, hey, we're kind of back on with this. And, so yeah, I would say, August, September last year, we sort of started discussing with, the folks at Universal about, the specs, what kind of box, rough ideas about contents. And this had nothing, when I talk to them, I don't talk to them about audio or video and things like that. That's, that's their thing. Not for me to discuss with them. It's really more about the contents, like, it was easy things like, let's do a replica of the tour program, the army kit, posters, this and that. And as we had more discussions, things were getting more clear and clear over the weeks. And it's, I would say about a year ago, literally October, November, Ken and I really started working on it, and Ken's in charge of not only the big part of the liner notes, which on his part involved, interviewing a lot of new people, because he wanted to get a lot of extra material, track by track stuff, and writing the story of Destroyer. And then also we had Paul Elliott from the UK writing the sort of European perspective of the band being in Europe in the spring of '76. And my task was basically, it usually starts with reaching out to people like Nicholas and all the other dudes in the they're all listed in the credits, and I don't want to name them because I may forget one or two, but they're all in there, and the ones that are they know who they are. So I go to specific people where I know, okay, this guy collects that kind of stuff, this guy has perhaps this kind of stuff, and it's kind of like an avalanche. It starts with a little snowball, and things start coming in more and more. And obviously, sometimes I get duplicates. I get a version of something from this guy, and like Nicholas was submitting scans for the Army kit, of which I used most of it, but I think I used a newsletter from another friend of mine, because he just had I think it was a different, it was in color, or there's details that I don't remember exactly anymore, because there was so much work that went into this. And then the whole photo research, accessing the KISS archive of photos, literally looking through hundreds, if not thousands of photos, and trying to edit that stuff and trying to memorize what I have. So it's basically in the beginning, we just collect stuff, right? There's like photos and text and ephemera. And then comes sort of the exciting part of like editing all this stuff, because we are limited with physical space, with the amount of pages in a book, the amount of words in liner notes, where, I remember when Ken first submitted his manuscript, I'm like, it's way too much. Which right. I'm like, I was worried that I wouldn't have enough space in the book, to display other art,
I remember when you told me that original word count, and I've laid out many magazines in my old job, and I'm going, how the fuck are you going to fit that in? It's like 2-point type or something. But it was a lot of words were turned in.
I think it was around 30,000 or something like that words.
Oh
then
my gosh!
Yeah, and I had the essay from Paul Elliott, which was around 17,000.
Yeah. Wow.
So do the contents that come in, do they sort of decide what goes into the box, or did you have kind of a checklist from some of the collectors that you knew offhand, and you're hunting it down, or is there stuff that came in that gets added that you have to go back then to the folks who hired you and say, hey, we'd really like to add this in? Do we have budget, or how does that all sort of come together? Or is it a little bit of everything?
It's a bit of everything, but essentially I kind of put together a wish list, and there were a few things that we had to omit, just had to do with manufacturing, perhaps with cost, and I wasn't too bummed about certain things. Initially I wanted to throw in like guitar picks, but then I was like, so it didn't seem to be that big of a deal. But I sort of start with a wish list, and then I create a very specific list with exact specification, sizes, and how many colors here, 4 color, 1 color, this and that. I submit it to the label, and they run their P&L thing. They have to calculate, get costs from the printers based on the various, quantities
sure.
that they're looking at. But essentially, I had a carte blanche in terms of, there was input from the label in the beginning where we agreed on certain key things that need to be in there, like the tour program, and, somehow the Army kit. A couple of other things, there should be posters of sorts, but what's on the poster, that was really up to me and Ken to make that call. So that's been really cool. Like, I was trying to imagine myself, because in '76 I was 7 years old, and growing up in Europe, I didn't know about KISS at that time. I was only listening to the Beatles. I didn't get into KISS until I think it was '79 or so. So for me, it was interesting. It was a bit of a time travel to, find these pieces of ephemera and collectibles or photos, and putting together, but in a new, fresh way. I was not interested in just rehashing everything exactly the way it was. Some pieces are. I tried to be as accurate and as authentic as they were. Perhaps the size changed a bit. Of course, like I saw a comment today, I think, Jason, on your post, somebody asked, is the tour program the same size as the original? Well, the original was 16 inches tall. So
right.
Obviously,
you're going to need a bigger boat.
Forgive us, Tom.
That's cool.
It's that kind of show.
So, but I was also very adamant about things that I recreated, that they are very clearly different from the original. And I'm not a collector, except I collect guitars. I'm not a KISS collector. I used to have my scrapbooks back in the days and stuff, but so I was very adamant about that things are not exact replicas of, let's say, a tour book or an army
Thank you
kit,
for that.
or, that kind of stuff. And as you saw in your box, everything has a universal copyright line. So
yeah, when I posted those, sorry to interrupt, but when I posted those photos, I immediately got dozens of PMs saying, is that stuff identical? What's going on here? Why are they doing this? And I had to explain to all those people that were messaging me, no, every one of these things are marked Universal 2021. Most of the things,
some of them are slightly different too, aren't they?
Right, and almost everything is slightly different, whether it be the size or something about it is. Like I noticed and we'll get to it, but like the couple of black and white promo photos that are in the kit, where I think originally those are glossy. These are very matte, very professionally matte, and they're gorgeous. And there's no way you could mistake them for the originals. So
yeah, decisions like this are made very with absolute what do you call it? Just
consideration.
Yeah, exactly. Because I thought I can take the liberty of grabbing something from the past, reimagining it, but just give it a new modern spin,
Sure.
And also clearly for the fact that somebody can't just go and next day you see it on eBay and people trying to hawk it for, sell it for as if it, so I think, that I hopefully I succeeded in doing that. And
as a collector, I can tell you, I think that was a successful move because, I have been an adamant, I can't stand counterfeits, and I can't stand people that make counterfeit posters, counterfeit records, counterfeit sonic booms, and they're out there selling them or trying to pass them off as the original and getting fake. That's right. And so that kind of stuff is almost first and foremost in my mind as far as the contents, not the musical contents, but the collectible contents of something like this, because people, some people get a little upset when the band replicates something, like they replicated the lunchbox, and it's real close to the original, but there's enough in there to know that it's not, and that's a very important distinction in my mind.
Well, I mean, even when it's not a replica, I don't know if you guys have seen that variant of the Creatures of the Night tour book that's sold sometimes, and it's from that bootleg.
Yes, I've got it.
They sell it, but a lot of times it's just on eBay as this variant and at a much higher price. And
that's right.
For the people who don't know, go, oh, maybe that was a variant kind of one, but it's actually
there is
creation, yeah.
Right, and you can't win them all, right? I mean, there's as long as. I mean, I guess I'm okay as long as someone didn't say this is the original, or or this is an unknown variant, like the Vinny Creatures album cover from several years ago. This is a rare Brazilian find promo record, and they're selling for, I think we've discussed this on the show many times. If you go on PopPsych and look up the most expensive KISS records ever sold, out of the top 10, 7 of them are counterfeits because they were advertised as some kind of rare find or something like that. And it's just, so that's always a concern in the collector market. How do we replicate this stuff and pay homage, but not confuse with what's going on in the
exactly. That's what it was, because for a kid like me back in in the late 70s, once I got into KISS, we had no access to any of that kind of stuff that you guys press kits or any of those bands from that time. I mean, I remember I became a member of the Rolling Stones fan club, I think in around 81 or something, and I had to send in an international check somewhere in the States, and it took like 4 or 5 whatever months till I got this package, and it was really cool. I still have it, but it was you had to go through a bunch of trouble to get these things. So for me, it was really cool to revisit something that I personally didn't get to experience at the time. But the goal was to give it overall the project, give it a new, kind of classy, edgy, modern look, but with paying homage to and obviously the whole thing is a celebration of this album,
right?
And I'm always about, as a designer, or art director, I'm very interested in being able to tell a story from start to finish, and that year particularly was very interesting to go through,
and when it comes to tour books, that story is fire. It's usually always fire. I just the covers of some of those tour books, it's always fire.
It's fire.
That's your story in that one, wasn't
it? Add fire into it. So let's talk about a little bit about the brief. When they come to you, what do they say as far as we just want to create the most complete deluxe package, or is it sort of we only want to do a couple of things from a cost perspective, and then they sort of acquiesce to adding these other, the flyers and the press kit and some of these other pieces and parts? And I guess the second part of the question is there anything from a DNA perspective that you've looked at that you went, oh, that band did it right, or we not modeled it after, but sort of an inspiration, for these boxes? Because we know that some bands out there have just done amazing jobs, and I think it's been a little bit of the KISS fans' lament is that something like this hasn't come out. So what's the impetus? Where does that all come from?
I'm going to answer your second question first. Yeah, clearly those, the Metallicas of the world. I don't own any of those boxes, but I've seen a bunch of those unboxing videos, and it's crazy what they put in there. I mean, it's obviously a different situation with them, how they have control over their whole legacy.
That's right.
But also, I was looking at things like, what Rush is doing, what Led Zeppelin is doing, and
Sabbath have done some good ones too.
Yeah. And I just felt like, you know what, KISS needs to be right up there as well. I mean, at least from the part that I can contribute, and I wanted to just give the whole thing a really sophisticated look. I wasn't going to go the route of what I did with the current tour program, which is like, which you guys seen it, it looks like a fan put it together. It's all scrapbook style and kind of, so, but in terms of design, I wanted to really go a more sophisticated, timeless kind of design with a little edge here and there with some of the textures I brought in. And
I was going to ask you, Tom, and I kind of know the answer, but this is more to tell the viewers. Did you design the box set cover with future volumes in mind, or would you have a unique look for each box set?
There is I don't know, maybe because I'm Swiss, there is always a thing about time, and like you while you're working on something, you need to anticipate what could come down the line. Or it's a bit like me being a big skier. As I'm racing down a mountain, I always want to know, or need to know, or be at least sort of aware of like what's behind that tree or around that bend. So that, just kind of like when you get in your car.
Sonny Bono.
You're
anticipating.
You're not just focused on like right
JFK
now.
Jr.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I was thinking and imagining, wow, what if, especially when it comes to the spine of the box, so like, okay, I want to create a color scheme, and I want to use, always the logo from the cover that's gonna, and then the title, the title with whatever particular font, but that there's a consistency that hopefully, if there's more boxes, that you can have them on your shelf, and pick a distinctive color like I did with this one, with sort of this purplish blue. The next one, if there will be one, could be green, red. I don't know yet. Who knows?
There's a clue.
Green and red. Is that a clue?
It could be, yeah.
Peter Criss'
Actually,
solo album.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I can reveal the next box set will be, So now you all know anyway. So.
Yeah.
So let's circle back around.
Great.
Yeah, I agree. Let's circle back around to the first question that Joe asked about what was it, how they came to you and said, what were you saying, Joe?
Yeah, so I was just kind of talking about the brief. Did they say we want to include absolutely everything, or did some things kind of like leak into the project over time, and you kind of said, hey, what about, and it kind of gets added and added and added, and then does that ever shift price point, or is there ever a discussion there where, obviously there has to be some sort of cutoff point, but.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there in the very beginning, I would have a conversation with one of the producers. And basically, I think, Ken Sharp would be involved. And we just kind of, there wasn't an existing brief that they came to me with. It was really, the brief was Destroyer, Super Deluxe, box set. Let's figure this out. And it was really more like a headline, and we had to come up with the description. And that was the sort of the skeleton of the contents was established with a couple of the guys from Universal, Ken and I, and that was sort of and asking a few other people once we had more detailed contents. I would go to Nicholas and say, is there anything missing, or is there anything that's not cool, or is there something you would love to see? And obviously, that's all stuff that we had to keep very much on the wraps.
Yeah. But one of the great things I thought was some of the stuff, because it was so much, some of the stuff that you couldn't replicate as a separate thing, you were able to use that image again in the booklet. So if you didn't have that there, you can always put it as a flat image. So you seem to be able to, when I looked through the booklet, that like you still fitted a lot of that stuff in. It just wasn't all separate pieces like the press. So the kit. So,
I mean, I obviously when it comes to photos, I had to edit a lot of stuff because there's, you're juggling between text, copy, and visuals, and you want to have a good balance. Because for me, actually, the words, the stories, is really cool that the two guys have written, and exactly like you said, Nicholas. There's certain things where like, oh, maybe those would be cool to do an extra booklet of. I can't even think of it. There wasn't any idea or a specific thing, but then, or maybe the press kit. There was tossing that idea around the original press kit, but then I'm like, something from my experience told me like, okay, that's another thing that's going to cost another X amount of dollars. I may have to like make a compromise on something else, if I want that. So I make some of these decisions myself already, and then I go like, you know what, I can replicate some of that stuff, like you said, Nicholas, in the book itself, whether it's the front page or the cover of something, or
Sure.
Stuff.
It's the editing aspect is a difficult one, but over the years, obviously, I learned how to deal with that in a efficient, timely manner. Because all of a sudden, I was faced with a deadline, by probably beginning of this year, when things became more clear, with the pandemic, the manufacturers were getting going again. And then I had probably maybe 2.5 months, maybe 3 months to design the whole thing. And that doesn't mean that I worked on it every day, 10 hours. Obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
But,
sure. And I know you said you didn't have any discussions around the actual media content itself. But was there discussion about, okay, we're going to create a vinyl box set, or we're going to only do CDs, or so how does that come to you as far as like anticipating how this box needs to work and what kind of contents go in there?
So yeah, the LP and the CD, I mean, I knew that was going to happen, but in the beginning, because so the Super Deluxe thing is sort of A, and then the other ones are like B and C, and that's how it kind of, there's the big guy, and then there's that guy, Right. So I guess also from my experience of having to do a lot of different kind of versions of things, whether if you look back at like the Alive 4 Symphony, we had the vinyl, and then there was the full-on digipack, but then we did like a jewel case version, and then the even more simplified jewel case with the blue cover.
The blue cover.
So all these different components. So I prefer to start with the big boy, and then sort of downsizing based on the space that I have available, which of course, unfortunately, means cutting out more stuff. Like trying to put a big box into like a 2 CD format with a 24-page booklet. Like, okay, I gotta make some harsh decisions here.
From what I can see, based on other bands, there seems to be like almost like 3 kind of separate models. There's like I know with the Pink Floyd Immersion ones I got, they're all CDs, and I noticed with Metallica they do a mix of record, LP and CD, and I think Queen did as well. And then you got Sabbath, which have done the 2 separate things. They've got the CD edition of the box set, which is the smaller one, and then they've got the vinyl version. So was there any discussion as to at the table what route they were going to take, and was there did they give a reason behind it, or you don't really get a say in it? They just go, we're doing all CD or CD Blu-ray, whatever it is in this one.
It's kind of how it works, yeah. And it's not really my position to go and argue with the powers that be. Yeah. Because I figured, well, out of respect, I go like, okay, these guys are professionals. They know what they're doing. They've done their homework. I know what I'm doing. So, yeah, I mean,
As one of the vinyl collectors here in the room, I have to say, and I know you have nothing to do with it, but I just have to say, go on record and say it is absolutely perplexing to me that in this day and age, a deluxe, what's called a super deluxe box set does not include the vinyl in it as well. I mean, we're talking about the only physical medium that is growing, and to have the mediums that are in it to be dead mediums, and they are. There's no other way around it. They're dead mediums. It's just perplexing to me, and I wish we could get a real answer to that from the person who made that decision, because it just makes no sense to me. That being said, I love this. And it's funny, when you were talking earlier, I just went and picked up just a random record and stuck it right on top, and I was like, well, I'll be damned, it fits right in there. I don't understand why we couldn't have just added those records in here. It boggles my mind.
Because I know with the one I got, Queen News of the World, I did, because I collect the Queen vinyl. I did get that one, and there wasn't much of a difference, but I didn't even know. You'll tell me if, like, all the regular ones are half-speed masters now, but they did AAA analog cut. That was, so there was the one that's in the box set is an analog cut, so you had to get that version as well to buy it, and they just put that. There was nothing special about it other than it was an analog cut, but it was different, and it had the little AAA thing at the back, and it's become that for the people who went, oh, I'll just get it on Spotify. Now the vinyl collectors go, oh, I got to get the box set as well.
Yeah,
so I thought that was a good move for the Queen one.
I mean, I don't know if you can speak to any of that, Tom. I mean, we know you didn't have anything to do with that. I just maybe what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I personally, I thought it would have been cool too to have at least a piece of vinyl in there.
Sure. Yeah.
That's really all I can say. I mean,
sure.
I'm sure they have their reasons, but. I think it's a matter of fans speaking out. In general, like KISS fans have been doing for years, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
when it was announced, it was, if you look at my groups, our groups on Facebook it's by far the largest collecting group, 12,000 members in it as far as merchandise, and then we have our own vinyl group, which is by far the largest vinyl group, KISS collecting vinyl group, and that is the number one. If there's a complaint about the set, that's the number one thing, is it did not include the vinyl. And the vinyl that is coming, which is nice, is just a selection. So we can't even get all of the audio content on vinyl. You only get a selection. And that is, for a vinyl collector, the disappointing thing about this whole thing, because it looks like if we continue to get box sets, that's the way it's going to fly, is there's going to be these deluxe boxes with CDs and Blu-rays, and which are great. They should have been in there, but you
just want the vinyl as well. Like, you're not saying take away any of that stuff.
No.
In there,
no, absolutely.
I had a chance to actually put it to the guys from Universal, and I filmed the response. So here it is.
Maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself.
So that was the answer from the head guys at Universal.
I understand totally.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, especially in this day and age of where bands, individual artists are coming out with 8, 10, 12, 15 pieces of vinyl in a box, the whole thing. You would think that it would have been, what did the Blacklist came out, where it was covers of Metallica records, and they just came out with a 7 or 10 record set. So it is very strange to me at this point, where that seems to be the way that everything is moving, as far as from a collector's standpoint, that as we're begging for this stuff, and it's to your point, Tom, I don't think, and I think you've done an amazing job with it, KISS has never been treated as as one of those sort of top echelon kind of bands. They've almost kind of been viewed as kind of a joke or larky or whatever, but they're never put in the conversation with the Led Zeppelin's, Rolling Stones, those kinds of things. And I feel like, for me anyway, as a collector, those kinds of decisions actually help reinforce the thought of, oh, this is a band that's important and worth collecting and worth thinking about in the historical musical landscape. So
Yeah,
I
mean,
don't know.
even if it's
That's
just the
my
word
perspective.
saying, even if it's just the word saying half speed mastered at Abbey Road, even that sounds impressive. That kind of, you sort of, it's the record's been taken into where the Beatles recorded. Even just that, even though it's just a bit of a marketing spin, but that kind of, as Joe said, just including them with those kind of bands would actually make it feel, interesting.
It's something. Sorry, Nicholas, you finish. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying that when we put this to you, Tom, we're not putting this to you as Tom, the professional who worked on it, more just as a fan.
Absolutely,
what you would want to see as a
Right.
KISS fan, Tom, rather than
please don't think we're attacking you.
Yeah, no.
We know you didn't have anything to do with those decisions at all. And now I lost my train of thought.
Well, do we want to jump in and actually, do we have the actual box here to go ahead and take a look at all the pieces and parts? And
so just so people know, I work for a vinyl distributor, and of course we get product 10 days early or something like that, so I'm able to purchase mine, and I'm a trustworthy employee of my company, and I would never rip any of this stuff and upload it or anything. So it's just for my
show
own
it on a podcast,
or show it on a podcast. So I guarantee you this podcast is going to sell a bunch more of these boxes. I guarantee it. So all right,
let's have a look at the cover.
Let's have a look at the cover. So here it is. And as Tom was discussing, this is, I don't know how well you can, it's kind of a,
you can see it when you turn it.
Yeah, it's got some foil to it, or if you want to speak to that, Tom, of how you design that.
Well, it's a printing process. It's called cold foil, like a 4-color printing basically on foil. So that's how you get this, shimmer. But it's got a matte coating, so it's not over the top like, something that, I don't know, Miley Cyrus would do,
right?
some pop star or whatever. So to me, it has a very, we put a little white in the faces so that they pop. But yeah,
it's really beautiful. I
gotta say it came out exactly the way I envisioned it. It's.
It's really beautiful. I think Joe and I do our own releases, and we're working with Slaughter currently, and we're doing something very similar to this, except it's an all vinyl box set, ironically. But some of the touches and ideas that we have had for or Joe has had for our boxes as well. So I just am super impressed with how this came out. And if there are future boxes, and this is, and I can line all of these things up like this in my rack back here, it's really, really going to be awesome to see. So I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So, let's just show the back. So here is the back. And, so it's got all the track listing, and again, on the back, that shimmer to it.
Yeah, it's the same printing technique. Yeah.
So it looks really, really, really wonderful. Now, go ahead, Tom.
Just a quick thing, with the box itself, one of the things we had to decide in the beginning, there's this type of box with the top lid that is separate from the bottom, or there's the I think it's called a clamshell, where the bottom and the lid are connected through a spine. That was one of the sort of major decisions we had to make from the beginning. And that's just me, personal preference. I like it if the two pieces are separate. So you can set the cover aside, or you can put it up on your shelf, rather than having this then 12 by, or 13 by 26 or whatever the size it would be laying in front of you. So I like to have it separate, and that was one
It
of
looks
the
classier too. I think it looks
I agree.
classier when the thing just comes out and lifts off, which is really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it's like a box of chocolate, right?
I
Yeah,
totally agree. So I'm going to hold it like this because this is the cover of the book. So the book is the first thing that you see when you open this up. And of course, I have to say, I was
Someone wrote on yours.
right.
Sorry.
I was a little confused when I opened it up because I wasn't sure what this was. Because it doesn't immediately strike you as this is the book. But of course, when you pull it out, it's super cool. But do you want to speak about this cover a little bit?
Sure. So as we're gathering assets, I talked to the Universal guys and I said, "Hey, by any chance, do you have from your archives scans of the original tape boxes?" And lo and behold, a week, two later, I got a WeTransfer or some kind of link with tons of scans of the top of the box, the side of the box, the bottom of the box, the reel itself. Obviously couldn't use everything, but one of them was the actual album. Oh my God, this is really cool because it's really like a piece of history. And I was thinking about the cover for the book, and the obvious thing would be to repeat the album cover.
Sure.
And while it's one of the most amazing album covers, I was like, you know what? Nah. I'm going to take the liberty and the chance, initially also with the label people, I'm going to do something different. And they thought it was cool, different and fresh. And, I said, okay, let's, had to do a little retouching here and there to make it the front and the back work in terms of the format. But I thought it would be, and I love the fact that you had this reaction of like, I'm not quite sure what this is. Is this?
That's right. Yeah.
And, that's a little bit of me also, like just kind of wanting to get a reaction out of people about choices that I make in my design and in my photos that I may pick, or so
yeah, and also just not wanting to make it so predictable or so obvious too. Just a little extra flavor. I mean, I certainly haven't seen that tape cover before, the reel to reel cover ever. So it's just even immediately when I pick it, I was when I saw it for the first time, I was having and reading through all the bits of writing on there. I find that fascinating,
And I think it adds some credibility to the box set as well, so that you kind of know that, we really dug into the real archives to find this stuff, and this is really a historical document, so it almost adds that sort of gravitas to the whole project, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly the intention. Yeah.
So the book lays right on into the box, and it's got this kind of pull tab, so you can, it lays under the whole book, so you can pull the book out, because it's everything is nice and snug and fit. You don't want to stick your finger in there and tear your box up. So
it's tight.
You just lift the book out with that, and so here's the back of the book,
which is basically side B.
That's right, side B. So
cool.
Sorry, I forgot to Sully.
It's all right.
I have one job. Sorry.
You had one job. So yeah, there's the front.
That's really nice. That's really nice, Tom. It looks good. I mean, I saw it in flat form a long time ago, but I hadn't seen it when you actually see it printed up on the material. It's beautiful.
So and we're not going to be able to go through every page, and we're not here to do that. But
can you read all 33,000 words?
Yeah, hold on. Once upon a time,
Pen Sharp sat down.
That's right. So but
it's a dark and stormy night.
That's right. Let me just flip through, and just show a few things.
Yep.
So there's a bunch of Paul Lynde, bunch of Paul Lynde photos. there.
So, and again, going back to what I was saying earlier, telling a story, a visual story, you know, the book starts with that newspaper article that I just thought was kind of funny how it was kind of, you know, kind of disrespectful, but kind of like also like, oh, maybe, you know, you'll have fun if you go to that KISS concert, because it's kind of like a clown show or whatever that it was saying. But then, you know, ending the book with the Paul Lynde, even though that almost kind of leaked into the next album cycle, because Rock and Roll Over, I think, was out already at the time when they did that show. And again, I did not see it back in the days, obviously. I was not, you know, I would see the pictures over the years, but I never really understood the significance of that TV appearance of the band. You know, until I last year spoken to a bunch of people, and they would be like, "Dude, this was our Beatles moment."
Right.
You know, and so it was clear to me the book needs to end with the Paul Lynde show.
Great.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you know,
I mean, if you think of it, even though Rock and Roll Over was out, the three songs they played? They're all from Destroyer anyway.
It's all Destroyer, yeah.
So, yeah,
That's
so
right.
it feels like it belongs to it, even though
It does.
dates went in a different
because you've got Mike Douglas for the Rock and Roll Over stuff. You know, the Mike Douglas show was following, you know, next to that has Love 'Em, Leave 'Em, and
yes, those three videos. Yeah.
you don't know anything about
No,
the
I
history of
didn't
the
know.
band.
No, I did know who Mike Douglas was, but I remember those videos.
No. I'm sorry. It's not Mike. Actually,
Yeah,
it's not Mike
was my
Douglas. I
favorite
made
videos.
it. It's Don Kirshner. I made a mistake. It's Don Kirshner.
Yeah, Douglas was before, yeah.
It was
Mike
Kirk
Douglas.
Douglas.
Yeah, it's
Don't
Kirk
you know
Douglas.
anything?
Yeah.
I'm
Don't you know
Spartacus. I'm
Yeah,
Spartacus.
that's right. So, but
Ron
yeah.
Douglas.
So also, just
Hang on, I'll zoom in. Hang on.
Okay.
I'm very slow. Hang on. There we go.
So here,
the German one is mine. It's
oh, cool.
the original vinyl.
Pronounced
Very
mine.
nice.
Yeah.
So you've got Destructor there from Argentina and you know, Japan, and you know, I know there's cassettes, and there's just really.
And you know, one thing about the pages with the cassettes and the single sleeves and the labels, this was by no means me like, oh, here is everything that came out. This is more like eye candy, like, hey, maybe it's everything, maybe it's not. This is not an anthology of, you know, like I know some other people have made books and stuff.
Of course.
This is just, hey, look, this, you know, on one page you have, I just think it's kind of funny how the variants are, and, you know, even though it may not be complete, there may be like 50 other things.
See, that's what we kind of, you know, focus on around here is variants of things. Like our very last episode that we recorded was on all Argentina KISS vinyl, and we showed in, you know, however long, 3 hours the episode was, 2.5 hours, we showed every piece of Argentina KISS vinyl that exists, that we are aware that exists.
Not even KISS, just
just
Period. But what's cool about a page like that from a designer's perspective is you're telling that story of how big KISS was getting at that point, because you have the Japanese version, you have the German version, you have a South American version, you know. So you're saying, you know, this is, you know, the footprint is just massive now for this band. So it is telling that kind of historical story.
Yeah, and it's as you go through the book, it gets sort of bigger and bigger, right? And
yeah. So you know, we'll move on from the book, but folks, this is how many pages is it, Tom? Do you remember?
I think it was 68 or 72, something around plus minus 70.
There's a lot of information.
68 pages.
Yeah, a lot of information packed into this beautiful book, and I think it's beautifully designed. And
I did like how you had the 4 promo ads, and you had that, because one of them they included the early cover with the burning background as well. That was really cool.
Right.
Which we've never seen again. That one. I think he painted over it or something with the final cover, but it made one appearance once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
is
it was the book was really fun. I mean, I have to say I love projects like this where, I mean, I probably, like, you know, besides the actual research phase, there's, you know, hours and hours of retouching, you know, certain images that I would get from people, you know, pictures taken with a phone, and, you know, and go in and like tweak things so that I can fit them, you know, and, you know, because they're all out of, you know. So a lot of time spent on just preparing each little, you know, piece, getting at the right resolution, and
right.
Yeah, you're constrained sometimes from a design perspective by the material that you have. It's like, oh, I would love to use that handbill sort of poster much larger, but I only have a phone scan of it or a phone photo of it. So here's now how I'm constrained. So how do I make that work in the sort of, you know, design, from a design perspective? So it's cool.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I do remember with old vintage things, and when I was doing stuff for the book, that sometimes you'd scan it in, and then just a bit more technical, you'd sort of straighten it up in Photoshop. You'd put a key line in just to make sure that type's lined up. And then you put another one in and realize the other types, and then you realize that back in the day they would have put it together on an artboard, and they weren't always that accurate. So you get pieces, even just on a piece of art, that weren't square back in the day. They were like, the text up there is kind of going a bit like that, and the text up there is going a little bit like that. Is it fun? Those fun things from the past where that doesn't really happen unless you do it deliberately on a computer now.
Yeah, well, and that's part of that's part of the process that people just don't realize happens. You know, if you actually did a time lapse of what you had to do, Tom, even on each photo in this thing, to make sure that they're, you know, color timed the same way, and they're going to be, you know, they're going to have the same brightness level. They're, you know, so you're constantly going through that stuff. There's just an amazing amount of work.
Yeah.
Design talk here with KISS My Kollectibles
Exactly.
Panel. So, and another thing. All right, so what else do we have in the box, Jason?
Yeah, well, I had this stuck underneath the book, so I wanted to go ahead and show it. But here is the very extensive hype sticker.
Sorry.
One job. So,
the hype sticker has 17,000 words.
That's right.
Exactly. Leftover Ken Sharp words.
That's right. You got to get a lot of information in there, because there's a lot of stuff.
There's a ton of stuff in there.
Yeah.
In this. So you know, so this covers everything. You know,
and you know, with these hype stickers, it's like, okay, so you get, you know, normal ones, they're like whatever 3x4 or 2x3 inches. So those are easy. And then, you know, I always need to decide where in the plant is going to be sticking it on, because you don't want them. You have to submit a PDF with like a sticker placement, because, you know, if you don't do that, they may just like slap it right. And so I'm like, okay, where this sticker is really big, where should this go? Should I overlap Gene, or should I overlap Paul? Who's going to be more mad at me? And so I said,
so you stuck it over Peter, basically.
So it looks like it's stuck halfway down on the bottom right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is a good placement for it. So
yeah.
And of course, us dorky collectors have to keep this, you know. So
sure.
So I have it. You know, hype stickers are important, you know, as far as collecting goes.
I like the good old days when they used to just stick it on the albums too. That was great.
Yeah. Of course you would. So, all right. So then we get that book sets on a tray. So we have, you know, a tray right here that underneath all of this where the CDs are. So there's a tray here. And so inside of that, we have the first replica. I don't know if I can get it out of the box without tearing it up. We have the Army kit. And then for those of you that are concerned that this may be, you know, identical to a vintage one, it's pretty neat. It has this, what do you call this type of
spine?
Spine, yeah. But you know, the originals weren't like this, right, Nicholas?
No, they were completely flat. Yeah,
they're completely flat. So that that differentiates it there. And then, of course, on the bottom here, we're not going to be able to see it, but there's certainly a line that says that it is, Universal 2021, and I'm not going to be able to focus that, but it's there. So, all right, so let's just go through a few things that was included in this, and we'll just start on this side. So we have the KISS iron-on sheet. It's mine's. I don't know. I guess that's intended to still be there. The item number, made in China. That sort of thing.
That might be the only piece that was made in overseas. But yeah, that was probably just a cost thing or whatever. But
yeah, so
I know for a fact that the big part of the or the box itself and everything was printed domestically in the
really.
US.
It's pretty expensive to print domestically. So, but cool. So yeah, so this is your iron-on. It's
So funny little story with this. Once I started digging through and I know you guys had episodes on that. What is the correct army kit?
Oh yeah.
So I was like, God damn it. This guy has this guy has that. So I'm like, okay, what do I put in there? Well, obviously there were the few things that were luckily consistent. And then Nicholas says, well, mine had this logo iron-on. And I said, all right, let's throw that in there too.
Yeah.
Even though maybe most people never had that. But,
whether it belonged or not, I think that's a really, really cool piece. So
it's a simple piece, but I thought, it'd be kind of a neat, unusual thing. Or like
I kind of like what John 5 does now is he gets all pieces from different ones and just sort of puts it into one master kit. So rather than him having lots of different first KISS Army kits, he'll just have that first one, and then he'll try and get as much as everyone had. He might have his would be the thickest, most bulging one that anyone had.
Yeah, because as we discussed on that episode, for people that may have never watched before, it's just whatever they had laying around the offices at the time. They just threw in those things. And a kit that you got, if you're on the same kit, for 6 months of the year, what somebody got in January might not have been the same things that somebody got in July. It's just
they had different newsletters too. There was like dependent. So we had to. I remember when we were talking about scanning the newsletters there was one that you had, and then we worked out that was technically number one was technically from the Alive period. Right. So we had to jump to 2 or 3 or number two to actually be Destroyer.
Spring 76.
We're also discussing about the 8x10s. There's
which is what I was going to show next. Hang on. So this is what I was talking about earlier. These have a matte.
I like that. It's different. That's different.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's like modern kind of feel.
They're very beautiful. So, and again, for anyone worrying, it does say down here in the corner, and I'm sorry that doesn't focus, but it does say Universal 2021. There's no way to mix these up with the originals. So that attention to detail is appreciated for sure. But just to blow through some of the things, I don't want to spend time on every little piece, but you've got the certificate, and like they were just talking about, you've got a reproduction of the newsletter, and what everybody remembers is your discography and meet the members of KISS, that sort of thing. That's on one side. On the other side over here, you got your Bob Steele KISS Army membership card. And again, I know everybody's wondering, and right down there at the bottom, it says
very small, but it's there. And that thing that I recreated that from scratch, because I didn't have a good scan. So I'm like, okay, I'll just make it brand new.
Right. So we've got this sticker.
Yeah.
There's
that wasn't in all versions of the kits. That was in my version, and I think John 5 had that version, but not all of them. Not all of them had that.
Right.
Super
but
cool.
It's a fun thing to have in there.
Then the Destroyer sticker.
What is that from originally? That was not from a KISS Army kit, was it? That's just a.
There is a sticker from back then that's just like this. So, are you sure you didn't have it in the Army kit?
No.
No, I remember seeing it somewhere else.
But yeah, there's definitely a destroyer sticker from back then.
Right.
Okay.
And then there's this is not from the kit.
Yeah.
KISS is Detroit Rock City, and this is smaller than the original, I think. Yeah. I think these are new. I think you designed these new, Tom. Is that correct?
Yes. So this is like it's larger than what a trading card would be, obviously. But
oh yeah.
I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a series of these four cards with a little quote.
Yeah, they look great.
Yeah.
So
they have a bit of a, I left some of the scratches and marks on the scans to they have a little bit of a worn kind of, look.
Yeah.
These I didn't retouch to death because I wanted some of the grit.
Super cool. Let's see, what else do we have in here? Now we have these. I believe these are also new as well. These new 8x10s, right?
Yeah. So out of the KISS archive, we had these really cool double exposure, triple exposure shots, and I figured, hey, let's throw in something new, and perhaps these hasn't been seen a million times, and maybe not before.
I agree. I think it's a great idea.
If somebody wants to frame them or put them, in a mat and whatever, or keep it in the box,
Okay, so now we have these replica posters that are on these, kind of cardboard kind of thing. So we have the Canadian promotional poster, which is one of the rarest, one of the rarer posters to collect out there. I love this poster. I don't own it.
That was from Mark Cicchini's collection.
Mark basically sent me a photo of his poster, and I was aware of it up until he showed it to me. But because of the format and whatever size it was, I couldn't really get a good quality out of it. So basically, what I did, I recreated that whole thing from scratch.
Oh wow!
Exactly, so to each letter,
I mean, it's great. This is a larger poster originally, and it's just cool to have it compact, and it just looks, this is period, just beautiful advertising,
But as well, being the Canadian thing, it uses a totally different font than they used on any of the American stuff, and that's why I like it, because it's different. Yeah.
All right. So next, I think I got double packed on something because so you reproduced the actual Mylar poster, but I got two of them in mine.
Oh, lucky you! Look at that.
Yeah.
So my question is, did I get an extra, or am I missing another? Nicholas, do you have the list of what's supposed to come in this set?
Well, there should only be one of those in there.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
So my question is, did I get an extra, or was there supposed to be another one that this one somewhat got mixed up with?
Or is there only meant to be one?
There can be only one.
But I'm having a look. I'm just I'll know by the time. Yes, because there could be something in there that if you don't show something up, that missing. I've got the picture there.
Yeah, I know that there's they talked about replica posters, and I thought they listed let's see.
We'll just cover Jason for the rest of the issue.
That's perfect. Throw that back up, Nicholas, please. Great. I don't think I'm missing any, because the other posters up at the top are folded. Okay. This comes in the kit. So
you might have just got two.
I got two. So good.
Perfect.
And let's see. The last thing in the Army kit is this beautiful, just bifold kind of black and white photo. Excellent.
I was
What was-
always,
what-
I was
what
always a
thinking behind
fan
that?
of the that when the band was in London, and because I just thought it was so bizarre. Like, here's this band on Westminster Bridge, and again, we were trying to find a photo that hopefully hasn't been seen before. We, talked to a bunch of photographers. We settled with this one guy, and that's the photo I chose.
Gotcha. So here's the inside of the kit, and this, shows the Destroyer, coming spring '76. And
again, a little silly detail that's different from the original is the height of the flaps.
the height of the flaps.
Yeah, we've got big flaps. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And that's really just more of a manufacturing thing that they asked me if it was okay, and I said, you know what? It would have been nicer if it ended right below the text or on the other side below the two minis. But then again, I purposely said no, that it's fine, because again, it's going to separate distinctively from the original.
Yeah, I think when I first saw it higher, I went, "Damn it! It cuts that out." Those album covers, whereas the original was a nice line underneath. But then, as you said, it's not. The whole thing's not meant to be a perfect recreation. It's meant to be 2021.
It didn't bother me too much. I mean, there's, Paul Stanley once said to me, like, you lose a battle, you win a battle, but the important thing is that you win the war at the end. And so, here and there, you make a concession and you give up something, and you're like, okay, for the sake of like speeding the project along and not making a big fuss over like two fucking flaps on a folder.
Yeah. All right, so next up, right underneath that, is a little packet here, and
this has 5 8x10s of me in there.
This is that's right.
So you can just throw that right away, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Placeholders
right away.
It's not the little packets that you used to find in Casablanca records sent to DJs.
Oh,
back in
God.
the day,
Yeah. So this is embossed. Yeah,
that's nice.
The logo there. I don't know if everybody can see it, and so it's put together. We've got posters and other items in here. So I'll open this up and try not to damage much of it. So let's see. The first thing we'll show is we'll talk about the. Tom already alluded to the fact that this was this tour book is a huge tour book. It's 16 inches tall originally. This is a replica of it, and it's quite a bit smaller. So it's more in the, what is this, 11 by 17 kind of? Well, no, it's not 11 by 17. 11 by, what is it?
I recall it was just about 12 tall, and so that would be, I don't know, 8 wide or something
wide,
like that. Yeah.
So
can I say a funny thing about that tour book? I always thought that there was dirt on the cover of mine. Have a look at the front cover.
Yeah.
And there's, just hold up that where your hand is there. I always thought that mine was marked until I saw that they were all like that. I don't even know what that is, but it does look like a big black smudge.
It's funny because little silly things like this you're confronted with, then like, oh, is this part of the photo, or was this, yeah. So our good friend Andrew helped me scan this his program, and he gave me all the files that he had. I had to go in and do some retouching and really make these images look as good as they could without me actually having a physical reference. So I just kind of went by feel on but it looks like it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, it looks great. It's a great representation of the tour book itself. And
actually, what's going to be interesting, Tom, is if they eventually get to rock and roll over, that you'll have most of your work done with that tour. What you're going to end up having to recreate the same tour book, to just change all the Paul photos, because it was the same. The rock and roll over version is the tour book, and for some reason Paul didn't like his pictures. He had them all changed. So There you go.
Yeah.
Job's sort of half done. But it will be strange to be including almost the same thing in another box again.
Yeah, I mean, if
know,
that were to happen, I may even say in a case like this, because I hate redundancy, like and like trying to resell the same thing, but something little thing changed, but it's I may in a case like this say, well, let's not do a tour book.
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
There's no rules, I suppose.
Yeah.
So we have some posters in there, and there we go. So here is.
That's cool.
Yeah, talk about it because my mic isn't on me.
Yeah, I mean, again, we have big selection of photos from that day, and I just thought it'd be cool to have a photo that hasn't been publicized, to use that for a photo.
Same here.
And I think this is also an alternate shot that wasn't the original poster.
That's correct.
It's different. It was always one of my favorite sessions. I mean, I would say Barry Levine is probably my favorite KISS photographer from that period, from the 70s. Because I was always so this is a piece I am super proud of, and we had most fun with this. So going back to the brief, in the beginning, we had pretty much most of the pieces you've shown so far, and then at some point, yeah, exactly, now I remember, as I'm running into this issue of Ken Sharp delivering 30 million words, I go, dude, I need to come up with something for the whole track by track document that he gave me. So we're just brainstorming, and I said, I can't fit this in the book anymore. What do we do? And somehow we came up with the idea of creating a KISS newspaper.
Wow.
And we're like, what do we call it? So we tossed a few ideas back and forth, and we came up with that. And then I said, and I'm going to write what did I say?
The world's best newspaper.
The world's best. Very humble. So yeah, Gotham Rock City News. And if there are any proper KISS fans out there, you notice the two icons on the left and the right of the masthead of the newspaper. If you can identify what that building is. Does anyone know?
I can't say it well enough.
Dead air.
Should I give it away?
So yeah, give it away.
Yeah, give it away.
It's the Loft.
Oh, it is the Loft.
The Loft building on what is it, 23rd?
Bleecker Street. No, is that...
Oh, the Bleecker Street Loft. Yeah.
So I grabbed a bunch of photos because like on the newspaper, there's always like some, I don't know what a logo or some sort of symbol maybe left or somewhere. So I'm just gonna recreate a graphic representation of the Loft, and that's the headquarters of the newspaper.
That's awesome.
Cool.
That is so cool. And,
so yeah, and in the newspaper, it's the track by track commentary, bunch of new stuff, with Bob and Ace, Gene and Paul, and others, engineers and whatever and what have you. But also that's where you see a lot of these tape boxes. Here's the going back to what we were saying earlier. I wasn't going to replicate this thing by itself, but I'm like, as I'm going through this newspaper, I'm like, hey, why don't I stick an ad in there? KISS Army. Yeah. And then we had these cool photos sort of like early on and later on of the year, the evolution.
Do this side first. more to it, and then this.
And then bang, platinum. Thank you, Nicholas. So
It's awesome. So
that
cool.
one's actually from 1977, but I don't think it matters when it comes out. It's still advertising.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
And then lastly in that are the stage drawings.
Yeah.
Blueprints.
So with those, and
make your own.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but those have not been seen before, or have they?
They've been seen. They've been seen.
Yeah. I think they were in history, weren't they? Or
I think so. Yeah,
but not in a sort of a high quality.
Not something you can hold in your hands. No.
Right.
No.
Exactly. Okay.
No. Just reproduced by scans. So
yeah. So with this, I was very adamant about because my original education is I studied architecture before I studied design, and so I used to draft a lot of architectural plans. And they always were on these on that sort of mylar type of semi-translucent, the paper.
Yeah, almost like a vellum, right?
Yeah, vellum. Yeah, and so with discussions with the printer, I was describing what I'm looking for, and eventually sent me some samples of that paper, and I said, yes, this is exactly what these two pieces need to be printed on, because it wouldn't have had the same sort of coolness that if it would have just been on regular paper or on a cardboard thing.
Right. Right. Of course.
So, it's little things like that I consider, that I think of, that I try to push through. Maybe those two pieces cost a bit more, but when everything's being printed at the same time, the cost can be avoided, or like it's not. I didn't break the bank with asking them to make these vinyl.
But I think that's always nice too. I always like in a lot, because I've got a lot of box sets from bands. I like when they have different paper stocks all in there. Like I'm just, because I'm from a print background, but I like having where you got like a thinner paper stock, and then you got a matte this, and you got a glossy this, and I like that mix and match feel in there is sometimes quite nice.
Yeah,
it just feels better.
Right. No, it definitely gives a different feel or when you have that newspaper, which has a very delicate kind of feel to it.
Sure. It feels more considered when there's different, textures and things like that in there. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Have you used those blueprints to build your own destroyer stage?
Well, I already started.
Exactly.
Right.
And then they included, oddly, no, I'm just kidding. So.
What?
There is vinyl in the box.
There is vinyl.
Yeah.
No.
If you put it in yourself.
That's right. If you put it in yourself. So lastly, but definitely not the least important, is the audio, and it sets in these 4 discs, or there's more than 4 discs, I think, but
5.
Yeah, there's 5 discs, but they're in these 4.
Can you show the covers of those to the?
I'm going to show it all.
Oh, cool.
We'll show all of them. I just wanted to show how they were laid into the tray. So, so disc 1 is the original album.
Yep.
And so you've kind of got this design decision on all of the disc, to put what it is. Disc 1, original, what does it say? Original album remastered,
Yeah.
So, and
is that a new remaster, that one?
Yes.
2021. Okay.
Yes. And then you've got this was the original inner sleeve, gatefold.
Where I'm obviously trying to stay true to, not messing with history. I'm just replicating,
That's right. And then there's disc 1.
So with the labels in general, and you'll see, and maybe you've noticed when you look at the vinyl images you've seen, or even the 2 CD package.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was listening to a bunch of different podcasts, amongst them, of course, one of you guys talking about labels, and
that's our forte. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, screw those guys.
I bet. Yeah.
I'm just gonna make up my own now. So what I thought was I'm gonna take the classic one, but I'm not gonna, because when you print on discs on CD, you don't print in 4-color, you print in Pantone color, so you have a choice of usually 2 or 3, because it's silkscreen process. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to give the whole thing again sort of a color theme. So I think all the discs in the deluxe box, they're black and silver with different graphics, as you'll see.
Sure.
The 2 LP, I think I used like a sort of a burnt orange or a copper. I don't remember right now, but they have different color themes to distinguish. And again, because I wasn't trying to be, I didn't think there was a point in like trying to replicate the past, because it's a CD, it's not a vinyl label. But yeah, where I felt like, I can take some freedom here and create something, take apart from the past. But
I think that's totally fine creative decision to make on CDs.
Right?
There's
exactly.
there's not an equivalent past. So you take more creative freedom than if you're reproducing the LP.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So I have no issue with that. So then disc 2 is the Destroyer era demos, and this is the cover.
Cool.
Yeah, again, I could have used a full glossy, beautiful band photo, but that this was part of the those scans from the tape boxes. There was a box that had this scratched up, with sort of charcoal or whatever it was, white crayon. Yeah. And I was just more intrigued by this kind of stuff, and with these barcodes and whatever numbers, whatever they mean. The original, numbering and stuff.
So I was looking through the tracks here on this thing. So some of them we've heard before. Obviously, I don't know how many of these are the ones we have heard. God of Thunder and Rock and Roll. Is that the one that we've heard a lot of times?
Well, here's
it's now entitled slightly different, but I remember it always being called God of Thunder demo on the KISS box set, wasn't it?
Right. So what you've got here is, on your Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons demos, which I think Love Is All Right is actually attributed to Paul, which I think is actually a Gene demo. But
right.
This side of these demos with Don't You Hesitate, which was on the box set, with God of Thunder, It's the Fire, Detroit Rock City, those kind of surfaced in collector trading circles about 12 years ago or so, 10 or 12 years ago, and I had a copy of them, and so I've heard this whole disc before. And basically, the way it gets out is somebody gets a hold of it when they were first transferring things back for the box set, and somebody gets a copy of it, and it just gets out. That's just what happens. And but they didn't circulate widely. So the majority of the people have never heard most of these songs. Of course,
I hadn't even heard Detroit Rock City. I listened to the Spotify one today, and I had never heard. That's interesting to hear that version, because you hear, whoa, Ezrin certainly was a master arranger, and
absolutely
compared to Paul's version, it's so much better.
I mean, it was
Bob
taken.
Ezrin's,
It was a souped up version of Acrobat. Basically, Paul was taking that riff and writing Detroit Rock City, and it was basically just a stomper. And then you see what Ezrin did with it. But there's a handful of people that have heard all of these songs before, but the vast majority of the people have never heard these tracks.
Now, I want to ask another couple of questions. Man of a Thousand Faces, is that similar to the version that ends up on the Gene album, or is it more of a rocker?
It's not a rocker, but it's nowhere near what it was produced and turned out to be on his solo album. It's very simple. Gene's demos are, generally speaking, him with a guitar and simple lyrics on a little cassette recorder or a
True Confessions is there, Burning Up with Fever is there. So a lot of stuff that ended up on his.
That's right.
I don't know the other ones, whether they are versions of KISS songs that became other titles, or are they all those other ones? Are they all?
I think part of Mad Dog ends up being part
We've
of
heard that one, haven't we?
Right, we've heard that.
Yeah.
So you've got that sort of thing. Then on disc 3, you've got the Destroyer outtakes, alternate mixes and single mixes and stuff like that. So you have the brand new acoustic mix of Beth, which no one's ever heard before. I assume it's a brand new mix, something they just did recently.
That's on Spotify now too.
That's right. You've got the single edit of songs like Flaming Youth and Shout It Out Loud and Detroit Rock City. Those were all on the 7-inch singles, and they were all from the box set that came out in 2000. When did that come out? 12?
2001.
2000. No, the singles, the Casablanca singles box set.
That one was it?
It's 12, I think. 2012.
Yeah.
So right around the time Resurrected came out. So we've had all of those before, but it's cool to have them all in one place. You've got the mono mixes of Beth, the mono mixes of Detroit Rock City. So you get down here into like studio outtakes, and now the studio outtakes of Destroyer have circulated for many years, and many audio collectors have them. I first got them on cassette in probably 1988 or something like that. And of course it's cassette made from a cassette, and I have to say, what I was hoping was to get super clear copies of these. And when you get to the alternate mix of King of the Nighttime World, it's really amazing. But then you get to Ain't None of Your Business, with Peter on vocals, which is an unreleased song. It was actually a song that Ezrin brought into the band, and it was actually a cover, and they left it off the record. But it's absolutely studio quality, just like you're listening to Detroit Rock City. So it begs, on the main record. So it begs the question, why don't we have, and I know nobody can answer this, but just putting it out there, why aren't the other alternate early versions of these songs of the same quality that Ain't None of Your Business is? Because they would have all been part of the same sessions. That kind of stuff's perplexing to me. I would love to talk to the person who makes the audio decisions, because it's cool to have all of this. You just have to wonder, why did this happen and why didn't this happen? And we'll get to that again when we get to the Paris show. So that being said, I mean, there is a lot of cool stuff on this disc that your common person has never heard before.
Common people. I was gonna actually ask a question, and Joe might know a bit more about this. But and I know the Beatles did the mono albums. What's so? Because I always go, why would I want mono? It's doesn't sound as good. Like what is it about mono that some people like? What do you know why it's collectible?
Well, typically I think it's because, especially for the Beatles, for instance, that was the way that most of that stuff was recorded, and that's the most faithful reproduction of that music up to that point. So Beatles, faithful fans believe that that's the way that you should listen to that stuff, not necessarily the stereo mixes. Now, to say that it's better, it's not necessarily better, because you're losing a huge bit of the sound stage. You can't separate instruments. There's a lot of things that you can't do in mono that you can do in stereo, obviously. So that's really the big. When you see mono, it's typically they're trying to faithfully reproduce what the original engineer or producer was going for back in the day.
There's another reason for it too. So like Joe said, the Beatles stuff was recorded in mono, and of course all you really had back then was AM radio, which is a mono signal. And when the Beatles recorded, we're not dealing with 24 tracks or even 12 tracks, or most of the time 4 tracks. So you're bouncing recordings down onto one track, so you'll have vocals and drums and guitar on one track where you can't separate. So when you go listen to Beatles stereo, you'll end up with mixes, if you listen to them, like in the right hand side it's all drums,
Right.
and then in the left hand side it's all vocals, and if you were to turn the balance, it sounds odd. So, and that's to speaking what Joe said, that's why most people prefer Beatles listening to it in mono, because it's the sound is blended. When you get to the 70s and you're doing mono mixes, those were done specifically for AM radio, because it's a mono signal.
I was wondering why they existed. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, okay.
FM stereo, FM's that's what it's called. And then so, you had to have a mix. It sounds bizarre listening to a stereo track on a mono signal and vice, so that's why they did it.
Well, so. It's funny you pointed that out, because when you listen to where the Beatles jumped into stereo, like around about Help or Rubber Soul or Revolver,
right?
There seemed to be that crazy experimentation, which you never hear again. Which is, as you said, like was weird to have the entire drum kit on the left speaker and the vocals on the right. That's just odd. It's odd now, but at the time they would have gone, "Wow, that sounds. We're playing with stereo. That's what we do."
Yeah. You're recording the first records on no more than a 4-track, and you're trying to put all of these different sounds onto no more. And then when you get to Rubber Soul and those records, it's like, oh my God, we've got 8 tracks to deal with. Right. So,
and then it wasn't. Isn't it like the Van Halen records? I know Van Halen purists. Maybe Tom, you know this, but doesn't Eddie's guitar solo, or isn't his guitar only in the right channel? I think in the first maybe 3 records, something like that.
Right.
Very early on, he's only divided out. Yeah.
I think Tom is dying.
Hey, I'm got a cup of water. I have a little scratchy throat.
But
before we move on to live, the only thing I did want to say, and this is probably the elephant in the room, that we don't get any Peter Criss demos, and we don't get any Ace Frehley demos. And do they exist in collector circles?
Well,
from this album, I mean.
Sure. Well, I mean, you got. I think you and I discussed it a little bit, Nicholas. There's the Lips demos for Beck.
Yeah.
That could have been included. You could speculate all day long why that wasn't included. Is it Peter doesn't want it to be on there, or is it because there's rights issues, which comes up a lot when you have because that song Beck is written by Stan Penridge, and you have to deal with his estate to include that kind of stuff. And maybe they asked and maybe they said no, or maybe they just thought it's not worth it to fight that battle just to include that one song. There are no, as far as I'm aware of, there are no Ace demos from that period. They're just not. He didn't write anything for that record that I'm aware of, and there's nothing out there. So there's good. Not a whole. There's, as far as studio goes, as being an audio collector and archivist myself, there's not a lot of studio stuff that wasn't included here. There are multiple takes when you're looking at things like King of the Nighttime World. Alternate takes and stuff like that. There are even more alternate takes than what ended up on this. I assume they went through and listened to everything and said, this is the best representation. There's no reason to have 6 versions of Great Expectations, because there were multiple versions of it where, and Great Expectations and Flaming Youth, the perspective in the lyrics was changed from more of a me to we kind of things. So it used to be, Flaming Youth, our parents think we're crazy instead of my parents think I'm crazy. There are multiple versions of that kind of thing. So, but I think they did a good job studio wise pulling together the best tracks that are out there. The only concern I had was a fidelity issue on some of the outtakes, which is proven that there's a mint copy of one of the songs. Why didn't we get a mint copy of the other songs? So,
do you know what I only realized the other day? Sorry, just as a derailing to a side note of listening to Flaming Youth in the car, and same as Department of Youth by Alice Cooper, both Bob Ezrin songs, is they don't seem to pronounce the word youth. If you actually listen to what they sing, it's Flaming You. Yeah. Have a listen next time you actually in your mind, because it's called And same as the Department of Youth. In a lot of parts where he repeats that, it doesn't sound like they say the TH, because I reckon he's gone. That's a th, doesn't sound good in the microphone. But have a list of Flaming Youth and tell me if what they're actually singing is Flaming You.
Yeah.
Next time you listen to it, have a listen. That's your challenge.
So as we're closing or getting to the end here, so then we have KISS live in Paris, and boy, do I have a little bit to say about this. So this is May 22nd, 1976. Cool design, great photo. I love that stage shot. Got the back there, and this on the inside.
Oh, sorry, I should say Solly. Sorry.
That's all right.
Very cool.
Okay. That's okay.
So
Now, what have you got to say?
Fair enough.
Now go for it.
goodbye.
All right, Tom, you were about to say something. What were you going to say?
Sorry.
So the Paris gatefold is something I'm actually a little proud of. The cover first, there is a bootleg that has a similar photo, but I was thinking to myself, okay, the bootleg, and I've never seen it in person, but it looks like this may have been taken by a bit more of a professional photographer, perhaps, meaning there could be more photos. Now, when you Google that Paris show, there's basically almost nothing to be found, visual flyers or anything like that, except those bootlegs keep coming up. So, I was faced with the task of finding that photo that would fit for this cover and a style, obviously. And after several weeks, I tracked down an agency in Paris, a photo agency, who represented that photographer, who was, he shot probably about 2 rolls of black and white. And the guy was super nice, and he let me license one of the photos. And I think this picture has never been seen. Now, it would have been easy for me to use a couple other black and white shots from a UK show and sort of fake it, with a close up, maybe in the style of a Live 2 or something. But what I thought was cool about this stage at the Olympia is that rounded,
right,
which is very unusual because it has a bit more of a cabaret kind of thing. So I found that photo, and at the same time, I was talking to another guy in Paris who tried to help me find this agency that I ended up finding. And then the guy says, I actually was at that concert. And I said, really? He's like, yeah, I still have my ticket stub. Yep, there it is.
There it is.
That's cool.
And you see how the back of the ticket stub is, it's a generic ticket. They would write, Saturday, 22nd May or 27th May, 15H means 15 hours, 1500 hours. That's 3 p.m. That's when the show was, and 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Not the length of the show. The big set.
And apparently the reason why they played at 3 in the afternoons was the evening was booked already by I believe it was a Chuck Berry show or something.
That's
so I was super happy finding these people, where I could actually find something that was from that show, a photo, a ticket stub. And because I said to those guys, look, this is the one time we can, incorporate these pieces, and and then the outside, I gave it a bit of a Art Nouveau, Parisian with the colors, and
yes, it looks fantastic. So, but that's not my issue. My issue, and I don't need to be soloed on this. So again, as a audio archivist, this show is an audience recorded bootleg. Okay. and it's one of the best audience recorded bootlegs out there. However, it's Stoned in Paris, which came out 40 years ago. Everybody that has any KISS audio whatsoever has this bootleg. There are 50 different versions of it in different qualities all over YouTube. It is absolutely, again, perplexing to me why they would use an audience recording in a professionally released box set, and I'll tell you, why here in a minute. But on top of being an audience recording, it's kind of period. It's Destroyer was recorded, but they're in their alive costumes. They only do 2 songs from Destroyer. There are full-blown soundboard Destroyer shows. I do not understand why Anaheim Stadium 76, which is a Destroyer show that we have a soundboard of, was not included in this set. Or there is at least 3 circulating soundboard Destroyer recordings that they could have used, and then there's probably 2 or 3 others that if they would have dug a little bit that exist that don't circulate, that I know about. It's just perplexing to me. I would love to talk. Well,
unless they're keeping it, and unless they're keeping it for
a
future off the soundboard.
It could be. It could be.
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
But why wouldn't you put a soundboard show in a professional soundboard show in your Super Deluxe box set instead of an audience recording? This was recorded on a cassette or something. Somebody standing in the audience. Now, I'll give it its props. It's one of the best audience bootlegs out there. Because usually when you listen to audience bootlegs, it's a bunch of noise. It's a really good recording. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't understand, but that's just me, and I'm sure my audio collectors feel the same way. So, but anyway, cool to have it professionally released, but why don't we have a soundboard show?
Well, I think you have your points. I don't have answers because I'm not involved in that aspect.
Right.
But,
right.
Perhaps the people that are in charge of those things will hear you, and I don't know.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know, but that's just it. So then we go to the Dolby Atmos remix by Steven Wilson, and you get this insane cool cover. You want to talk about this a little bit, Tom?
Yeah, this was after 3 bottles of red wine. No, I did design this sober. I was just having a little fun. I was just imagining myself in a room with like tons of speakers and just like visuals and just space and overlapping imagery. And I just took the liberty of just, taking, there you go. That's
it's crazy.
Yeah. And
it's cool because it's a different look at Destroyer. I always like this kind of stuff. It's a reimagined sort of approach for the artwork that we've seen a million times, and I give Tom total props for that because like you said, Tom, in a lot of ways you could just keep reusing that same kind of stuff over and over again, but this really shows the dedication that Tom puts into his work, because he could have just blown this off, but he actually dives in and does something totally cool and totally different, which is, I commend you for that.
I totally agree.
Thank you. And Nicholas and I, before I even started with the design, Nicholas asked me a couple of times. Remember, we talked about who was it? Was it Led Zeppelin who kind of turned their inside out? And I told him, I said, I don't think I can do this on the outside of the box. I can't really go and change the art. but I kept that in mind, and I thought, well, maybe there'll be something on the inside where I can just kind of do a new interpretation, or just have a little fun with it,
Yeah, because the Zeppelin stuff, they've kind of almost inverted. So if it's yellows and orange, it's blues and greens. And I think actually Sabbath did it for the new Technical Ecstasy Steven Wilson mix as well.
Mm-hmm.
No, but yours is by far the most interesting version of it, because some of those have just changed the color scheme, but the way you've actually done almost like the overlaying plates looks really nice. I like it because it's just fucked up and different,
Well,
I mean, there's a compliment when I say fucked up.
For the Photoshop geeks out there, I was playing with the channels, and that was sort of for me kind of from audio to a visual translation of and just mixing things and moving things and
yeah, it's cool. It also looks very modern, which is great. Very cool.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah.
So Steven Wilson has done a lot of great work with these Atmos remixes and stuff, and you're not gonna truly be able to appreciate this unless you're listening on something of an Atmos kind of setup. Luckily, and I'm gonna say it, my buddy Danny Dabbs has a 17 speaker Atmos setup, and I'm going to take this over to his house in the next week, and we're going to listen to it.
It's going to sound great.
It's going to be amazing. I cannot wait to listen to it that way.
Funny you said that, because I actually chatted to Danny Dabbs when I was trying to buy a home stereo thing, so I thought he'll know, and I asked him, and I said, what's just something basic? And he sends me this diagram of 42 speakers all mounted to the ceiling, and it's all surrounded. Okay. Now, I'll just say simple again. He goes, this is pretty much the simplest one for a Dolby Atmos system. I'm going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How am I getting this into the ceiling?
It's man, I tell you, I don't want to talk about how much money he spent on it, but it was more than I've paid for many cars. And but I would rather go to Danny's house and watch a movie, especially if the audio is mixed in Atmos, than I'd rather go to the theater. It is insane how cool it sounds. And that's what that kind of stuff is what this is designed for, to really listen to. Now, of course, you can, it's mixed in True HD 5.1. So if you got a 5.1 system, you're going to be able to enjoy it as well. There's, different mix versions on here. So you got DTS, HD Master Audio, and all of that stuff, but you also have the Dolby Atmos. So there's multiple versions on here. So you can appreciate it in your 5.1s, your 7.1s, 7.1 systems, and things like that. Playing it on your stereo is not going to give you its intended effect. That's what the original album is for. So, but I cannot wait to listen to the Atmos version of this, because it's going to be a trip. You're going to be hearing things. The car is going to be driving up from behind you in the beginning, and it's going to pass you and go to. It's going to be incredible.
Amazing. It's amazing that he actually got to do this, because I remember they talked about, even Sean Delaney talked about, when they went to do double platinum and remix all those songs, that the Destroyer ones were the hardest because of the way Ezra mixed everything in together. And it's almost like that's why those ones don't vary too much, because they sound like, and he's actually gone in and.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and here's why. Because what Ezra did with Resurrected back in 2012 was he went in and he separated a lot of those tracks manually and created that new mix. And I don't know for sure, because I haven't listened to it, but this may be the tracks that he separated, so there's more tracks to work with from Resurrected, because the bonus tracks on here, it has the Sweet Pain with the original guitar solo, which is what's on Resurrected.
Right.
I don't know that for sure, but just looking at this, I would say he used those tracks instead of, the tracks the way they were originally laid, because you can't, like you said, Sean Delaney said, you can't separate them. Ezra mixed that record and recorded that record how it was intended to, to sound. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out when I get to play this and listen to it properly. So
Be fun.
it'll be fun. See, this kind of treatment to the music in this set, it is, it gives it a what Joe was talking about it earlier. It gives it kind of that they care about KISS's music rather than this just being throwaway product. When you bring in somebody like that who has worked on many high profile projects, this band deserves to be honored in that way. Their music meant a lot to millions of people, not just photos of them that we have everywhere. So
yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, I remember saying to Gene and Paul once, I think it was, oh gosh, what year was this when they played in Vegas at the Palms Casino? Was it like 02 or something? I think it was shortly after the symphony, and I remember going into Henson Recording Studios in LA, a meeting with Gene and Paul talking about symphony artwork and stuff, and this was like maybe a week after that Palms Casino show, where there was no pyro, it was completely stripped down, very small. It was 500 people or something.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be at that show.
Cool.
It was
Right?
crazy. Yeah. It was, and yeah, they didn't do any pyro. I think at least the rumor was, I don't know if it was both the fire code and the place, but I think that Great White tragedy had just happened as well. So people were kind of re-examining, if I remember correctly. But anyway, sorry to interrupt your story.
But excuse me, I remember saying to Gene and Paul, and they were kind of like, yeah, but did you like it? And I said, it was great because you know what? It made me realize that besides all the makeup and the outfits and whatnot, it's because of the songs. That's why we like this band. If KISS's music wouldn't appeal to me, I'd be like, yeah, just I might not have become a fan. I mean,
of course,
I mean, why would you become a fan of a band that you think, oh, they look cool, but they suck?
No.
Well, and history is littered with those bands too, who have tried this same sort of quote unquote gimmick, and just it hasn't had the staying power because either for a multitude of reasons, but largely it's the music just has never held up.
That's right.
Yeah, and I remember they kind of looked at me like, oh wow, and I said, no, it's the music, man. It's first and foremost. I mean, everything else is a gimmick and cool, cool gimmicks. I mean,
right.
I told those guys many times. I think that I became a graphic designer because of KISS.
Wow.
Back in '79, when I saw the Dynasty covers first time, and and all that stuff, and I started drawing them like crazy and tracing. I traced every poster I had and ruined every poster that way because they all had the pencil markings. And
did you trim them though?
No, God. How many trimmed items from Nicholas's collection are scanned in this thing?
Yeah, right. All of them.
Yeah. Well, you said you wanted them smaller to fit in the box.
I need them smaller.
I cut them all my tool books. There you go.
But speaking of design, props to the great Dennis Wallach, who did all of this stuff back then. Just a brilliant man, in my opinion. So.
Oh, absolutely. And when I do some of these reissues, or even some of in the past, the deluxe editions of the two disc Love Guns and those kind of things, I'm always very adamant about being very true to what was done and not go in and change things around or an original design where it has to be exactly the way it was done. Now, like the disc number 5 there, that's a different story where I feel like, I can go and be a little crazy with
Well, that allows you because a 5.1 mix didn't exist. So because 5.1 is a new thing and Dolby Atmos is a new thing, you can have a new thing.
Sure.
But it's when you're doing your faithful stuff,
I was actually, during the process of the design, or early on in the design, I was actually emailing with Dennis a couple of times and just double checking on this. I just want to make sure this is the typeface that you use to set the tracks, and wanted to be as accurate and truthful and faithful as I can be. And I had a couple other questions about certain things, but yeah, I mean, obviously somebody that was very influential on me and his KISS work.
That's right. Well, I think that covers everything. Oh, well, let's just touch real quick on what else other than the box is coming. So we have the two.
Hang on.
Yeah.
You say it. I'll bring it.
We have the 2 LP black vinyl. There's the color vinyl version,
right.
And what you get here is the original album remastered, and you get a selection of the bonus cuts and live albums. Right? Isn't that correct? It's a selection of the songs for the second LP.
Yeah.
And so this is the colored vinyl version that's a KISS Online exclusive. That's not available for distribution. You can't order this on Amazon. You've got to get it from KISS Online, as far as I know. That's it. And how looks like is that a booklet or is that the gatefold? Is that a booklet, Tom?
No, it's a booklet, but it's like a 12 by 12 format.
And it looks 20,000 words of.
That's right. So, and it looks like one page there or 2 pages here are in the book in this box. So, is it like a condensed version of this book, or?
Yes, it's a condensed version. Like I think in these, I had to cut out a whole bunch of things, so certain things fell by the wayside, like maybe the labels or cassettes were gone. But it's like this is a compressed version, and so you got to trim a lot of stuff out, including words. You don't get a track by track. I mean, that's the cool thing. Somewhere when Universal announced this project, this release, somebody said, I just want the 4 or 5 discs. And then another guy responded and he said something like, no, dude, this is a box set. Like, don't you get it? Like, and you get all this other stuff. Another guy somewhere compared a Marillion 4 LP box set with this one and said, oh, this is way too expensive. I'm like, yeah, but your Marillion thing, which I love the early 80s Marillion.
Sure.
But I told the guy, I said, look, you're literally comparing apples and oranges here. This thing is $60, this one is $200, but there's a big difference in what's in it.
Right.
And somehow some people just don't seem to understand
that. Well, where does everyone feel the price at $200 sits? Is that for what you get in there? Do you feel that that's based on other box sets that seems like it hits the right mark for everyone? Or is it a little bit more or a little bit less? How does everyone feel about the price?
I think the price is fine. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's right on. And I don't have any details, particularly to this project, what all the little pieces cost to make. But from my experience, I have an idea of what it costs to make a box like this. So I find
it's not cheap.
What are most of the ones in your shop, Joe? Like in terms of ones that would have a similar amount of stuff in them?
Well,
like
mine are different because they're all vinyl.
That's
so
right.
There's a difference.
Right.
So it's a different. Yeah, it's a much cheaper process to create CDs these days and do those kinds of things. Yeah.
But sometimes I think like when you're $200. How many times in our lives have we spent $200 for some stupid stuff, or where you get overcharged? You go to a hockey game, want to get a beer, it's $18. Your parking was already $35.
Oh yeah.
And you grab a bite to eat at the venue. It's like $25. And then quickly you're like, oh, I just parked. I got a beer and I got a hot dog and something else, and I'm at
or a gram of Coke.
Yeah. So,
I don't have any problem with the price because of all of the, there's a lot of extra stuff in there, CDs in general, they're not expensive anymore. They're $10 maximum, but that's not, you're paying for the presentation and all of the other stuff that went into this.
Yeah,
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, a lot of fees have to be paid,
Sure.
Printers.
Oh yeah.
Licensing, all this stuff. Yeah.
I'm sure Wilson wasn't for free.
But I also want to say to some of those fans that, look, if it's a little on the pricier end, look, obviously if you can't afford it at all, you can't afford it. But if you think it's on the pricier end, in some ways, by supporting this product, people at Universal go, well, let's make the next one.
That's right.
Let's make the next one.
Yeah.
So you go, that $200 that you spent, maybe an investment, just say, I don't know, say Hot in the Shade is the greatest KISS album you ever heard. You may eventually get your Hot in the Shade box set because I'm picking one out that's a bit ridiculous, but just for a point. But you know what I mean? Like, let's say some of the weird fan favorites, Elder, Creatures, Rock and Roll Over, whatever you like, and you want that, like $200 as an investment to maybe hear some tracks from the Elder you haven't heard before.
That's right.
So if you don't support it, if you don't support these projects at all, then Universal will just keep banging out colored vinyl, and that's all they'll do. So
I think I'm all game for criticism, constructive criticism, like Jason has had about the vinyl aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all stuff that should be discussed, in my opinion. What I don't understand is, like, all these people over the years complaining how KISS doesn't do this, KISS doesn't do that, and finally
they
KISS
do
does it.
Yeah, and then they complain. Yeah, you can never keep people happy, right?
Yeah,
right.
And I don't know.
I saw that comment today, Tom, where that person said, why they keep rehashing the past? I want something new. But then they put out something new and they go, oh, it doesn't sound like the past.
That's right.
And then they put out a product of some other sort and they go, well, why aren't we getting any music? It should be something music related. And you're going, God, it doesn't matter what they do, or any band doesn't matter what they do.
Well, I think we all have to remember too that's always the vocal minority. Right, you're always going to have the people who are happy and who are in the background and who are going to buy these in the thousands of units are not going to ever say anything. They may come out and say it's cool, but the people who are extremely happy and the people who are extremely angry, those are the ones that you're almost always going to hear from, and typically it's the angry ones. Just as a quick aside, I did some quick looking online. So the Billy Joel vinyl collection just came out, Volume 1. It has 8 different records, including a double LP, unreleased live performance, and a book, and that retails for $249. So it doesn't have necessarily the same amount of ephemera, but it has, obviously it has way more content as far as music goes. And then Sade also came out with a box set not too long ago, about last year, that had 6 records in it. And that was $200 ish, somewhere in the range. So
and it's much more.
It's commensurate, but I think the contents here are way greater than anything you're going to ever see. And I guess my one piece of constructive criticism about this whole thing is you don't get to, Tom, to your point, from a redundancy standpoint, you don't get another kick at the can at something like this, because you're not going to put out this box set and go, oh, now it's got this one little tweak to it or this little tweak to it. So as from this fan's perspective, you should give it in all, you should put it out in all the variations, because this is the only shot we're going to get where, we get the awesome press kit and all your thoughtful, considered designs and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to get that kind of a super deluxe set again. So
no, this from what I understand, this is it, and I wouldn't see why, in 10 years from now, there's going to be
the 65th anniversary.
Yeah, whatever.
I really wouldn't see why, why you would, it's like you do it, and you do it as well as you can with some limitations here and there, but it's why redo it some years later? try to. Oh, we found 2 more songs. Let's.
Right.
Right. And
No.
from my perspective, that's why you should really go from a media perspective and put all the content out that you can. I mean, I don't think this box could have been better done from a design perspective and from a content perspective as far as what you actually get in the box. I think it's amazing, and kudos to you and the team and everybody else who collaborated on this thing. I mean, it's just an amazing job. So
you're more talking, Joe, about the only thing you would have done is just different format options.
Different format
like
options.
like the Sabbath one, where there's a CD version and an LP version, and you still get the stuff. Okay,
Right. I would have put those LPs in this set with the CDs. That's what I would have done. And the problem now is Universal is set on this format, and they're not going to do, if there is a next one, they're not going to do the next one and just all of a sudden say, we should probably put vinyl in it now. I don't think. That would be silly for them to do, because then all of a sudden you have a Destroyer box set that doesn't have vinyl in it, and your next one does have vinyl in it. That doesn't make any sense. So I am, as much as I love this set, and I was texting Joe when I first got my hands on it, and he asked me what I thought about it, and I said I think it's beautiful. I don't think it could have been, just like he said, could have been done any better from a design perspective at all. I just wish it would have had the records in it, because that makes the difference for me of being an absolute perfect product that the band could have put out. I do not understand why vinyl was not included in this.
Even selfishly as a graphic designer, I want to see that live in Paris gatefold.
Yes,
I want to see it. I want to see it big. I mean, that stuff is, you know what I mean, full size. Even the Steven Wilson thing, I know they probably wouldn't include that as a piece of vinyl, but if that were a lithograph or something inside there as well, like there's a lot of cool things that they could do if they decided to go ahead and throw LPs in the set as well.
Right.
That I think could have been
actually, I'm totally with you, Joe. And it's been funny, like over the last 10 years, when I would get hired to work. Obviously, I do a lot of work with other bands and artists other than KISS. In recent years, or probably last 10, we would start now with designing the vinyl version of the release.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is totally cool, because when I got into the music industry, 25, 26 years ago or something, it was all CD. There was no vinyl. I mean, occasional, like there were, if the band was really adamant, like we want to, but they would print like a couple of thousand or whatever.
It was almost like it was more ironic. Those releases were larky and more ironic, and now
these guys are so annoying. They want vinyl. Okay, let's print some vinyl. Just
right,
get it out there.
right.
And to make them shut up. But then, and in recent years, I've been working with bands like Breaking Benjamin and maybe Def Leppard and whatnot, where like you start actually now with the vinyl version of the release, and then you scale it down back to the CD. And when I started, and it was all small format, and I just love the big format. It's just, especially, I mean, that's again going back to when I became a fan, Dynasty, and then I think my second KISS record was Kiss Alive 2, and like with
we know the story of that, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Without knowing any of the background, I was like, wow. Years later, we find out this is during sound check.
Right.
But it
was.
Like, I'm out.
It's something you should.
And fire.
Well, Tom, thanks for coming on. This has been great. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Sure.
And thank you as a fan for putting all the effort into this, because we often bemoan the fact that fans aren't involved. Things are, wrong guitars are used on action figures, like all that stuff. As KISS fans, I know a lot of people complain about that stuff, but you really went the extra mile and made sure that this stuff was done right. And from from me and from all KISS fans, we thank you for that. And
Absolutely.
and adding to the legacy of the releases of this band that we all love.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I have to say, it's still, I've been working with the band now for 20 years. But the original box set was my first project, and I still have to pinch myself to be working on projects with them. It's from for a little Swiss guy from a small town to be part of this history. It's still kind of unreal every now and then when I think about it, and I'm very fortunate that I got into this position by default in a way, but probably also by design, but in some sense. But and yeah, I think any other graphic designer could have done a good job, but I think with this band in particular, you really have to be a fan, or I agree. I think you can't make projects like that if you're not a fan, because you really need to know this band.
I agree with you.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
But like, you'd imagine that would be the same against anything with a real intricate fan knowledge. Like, you'd be very scared if you were doing a Star Trek box set and you knew nothing about Star Trek, or one of those kind of real intense things. You go, I'm going to fuck this up because I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. You got to know your subject matter. I mean, there's levels of nerdiness that go into craziness, but
well, you have to be respectful to the source material, right? Whether it's Star Trek or Breaking Benjamin or KISS or whoever it is, you have to be really respectful, to that, and realize that there are passionate fans about those things, just as you're a passionate fan about whatever it is you love. So,
right,
exactly.
Yeah. So that wraps the 45th anniversary of Destroyer, KISS's deluxe set. Remember, you can purchase this. The street date is November 19th, Friday, November the 19th. You can get it at kissonline.com. You can get most of the configurations on Amazon or whatever record store, Detroit Record Club maybe, will have the vinyl. And the
other vinyl.
That's right. So you've got the black vinyl that is available in stores. The 2 CD set is available in stores. The only one that is KISS Online exclusive is the colored vinyl. And so go pick out your favorite configuration, or buy all of them like I did, or 2 of the box sets like I also did. I actually bought it from KISS Online, and I bought this copy so I could have it early and show it on the show. So I have 2 of them. So, but yeah, go pick them up. Street date November 19th. Tom, thank you again from all of us for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for a job well done, as Joe so eloquently put. So
I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Yep.
And
folks,
we'll see you back for the next one.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.